Today, we were told that we're going to get a national inquiry into Pakistani rape gangs. This is good news for victims and survivors, but bad news for all those who tried to cover it up or denied a problem existed, like journalist Owen Jones.
About vulnerable white girls being targeted by British Pakistani grooming gangs. Now, that is the sort of thing you would have expected to read in BNP leaflets, and which not that long ago would actually have been condemned by Tory and Labour politicians alike. But we are in 2023 in the worst possible timeline. It's not true. It's really important to make this very, very clear. It isn't true.
Yeah, it is though, isn't it? Or ex-BBC Emily Maitlis.
Do you not think, Emily, there's an issue with Pakistani Muslims raping working-class white underage girls? Do you not think there's an issue there?
I think there is an appalling issue with grooming when it hits any community and any age. We only ever hear you talk about Pakistani perpetrators.
Are you telling me there's no issue?
I'm telling you that you are focusing on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. Can you deny that?
Or because, as it turns out, Emily, it's a massive problem. Then, of course, there's Hope Not Hate's self-appointed anti-fascist-in-chief, Nick Lowles. In 2023, he said the Home Secretary, who was Suella Braverman, was singling out British Pakistani men, and that was irresponsibly stirring up hate. OK, so now he has the audacity to say, for too long, the victims have been ignored, not believed and let down. Yeah, by who, Nick? Anyway, Diane Abbott said today, there is a lot of nonsense and deliberate misinformation about child sexual grooming. She then shared dodgy stats on the amount of white people involved in grooming. You know what, Diane? I'm just not sure you're the best person when it comes to numerical accuracy.
Would 10,000 police officers cost?
We believe it'll be about £300,000.
£300,000 for 10,000 police officers? What are you paying them?
No, I mean, sorry.
How much will they cost?
It will cost.
Or maybe, I don't know, just like anything really, Diane. Yeah. Jess Phillips is busy trying to rewrite history on broadcast media.
Look, people have turned a blind eye. There's I'm not denying that.
Including you?
Absolutely not me. I have never turned a blind eye. I never would shy away from calling a problem what it is.
Yeah, but we're not thick, Jess, and that's an issue for you, isn't it? Because we're all old enough to remember you flat out refusing an inquiry in Oldham, and I don't think you can really act like that never happened. So today it emerged that the Civil Service wanted Michael Gove to go to court to block the publishing of a report on the Pakistani rape scandal in 2011. He refused, but this just shows you what the establishment thinks about it. Suella Braverman was hounded for saying this: grooming gangs are groups of men, almost all British Pakistani, who hold cultural attitudes completely incompatible with British values. So ipso, one of the press watchdogs, hammered her for that. Now it turns out, she was right, wasn't she? We've had to put up with opinion columns like this. I'm just going to read the headline for you now in the Metro. The majority of sexual offenders are white men. There is no problem, no Muslim problem with sexual grooming. Right, turns out that's a load of rubbish, isn't it? Because we could all see it with our own eyes. It's one thing getting this national inquiry. The next thing now is to make sure that this report is not a whitewash, because the left-wing media, Labour politicians, establishment luvvies, they're all going to want this to just go away. And we can't let that happen. Let's get thoughts of my panel. We have Reform UK councillor Jamie McIver. We've also got broadcaster and columnist Esther Krakow and journalist Jonathan Liss. Jamie, I'll start with you. I suppose it's been a long time coming, this, but, you know, a day of shame, I think, really, for a lot of those people on that little montage that I showed there, denying the reality of the situation.
Well, of course, they're part of the problem. These are people that are publicly facing, kind of denying the truth. You've then had this institutional problem within councils, within the police forces. And so I think it is a day of shame. It's a day of shame for Britain. I also feel ashamed. You know, is there anything more I could have done, you know, speaking up, you know, and actually how many more people will be feeling like that actually, people were concerned about being called racist, people have been called out on being prejudiced, but actually it's facts, isn't it? And I think, thank goodness there have been people giving the facts to the public. Thank goodness there have been people that have not been scared to have those uncomfortable conversations. But I think what we've got to remember, Patrick, at the heart of all of this, there has been some atrocious crimes committed here. And the people that are victim to this, those poor girls, they have to be at the epicentre of whatever happens. And I just hope that our Prime Minister, who I do not trust one bit, I just hope this isn't just a reactive decision. Because of the fact he's polling horrendously. There are some girls out there and their families that need justice, and I just hope that they're going to be serious and do this properly.
Well, what I worry about is that the reason why Baroness Casey apparently came out and eventually said, look, let's just have this national inquiry, was because she was trying to get local councils to give her a bit more information. And she thought, hang on a minute, why aren't you? So maybe there is a serious...
she mentioned that the word Pakistani was Tipp-X'd out of one of the reports, which is... just goes to show the scale of the problem. I think what's even more disgusting about all of this is this was clearly racially targeted. And I think that's what people are so affronted by. I mentioned the 2006 Birmingham riots, which was started by an unsubstantiated rumour of a black Caribbean girl being gang raped by men of Pakistani heritage. And that started a riot that was linked to the death of 2 men. And no one called these people that were saying, hang on, is there someone raping a girl in our communities? No one called these black people protesting racist, right? But the reason why something like this has gone on, even the people like Ann Cryer blew the whistle back in 2001, and you've had journalists like Julie Bindel trying to bring this to national attention, is because the sad reality is the victims were white. And that's something that is such a shame on the British conscience that really just makes me physically sick trying to think about it, because that's the reality. That's the only reason why it's been this bad and this endemic. Because if there were a bunch of Chinese girls or black British girls of whatever heritage, this would not have got this bad or far.
OK, Jonathan, my concern now, as I said at the end there, is that actually this is some kind of token effort that ends up taking a few years. And when we've seen the type of institutional-grade attempted cover-ups that we've had, like, for example, the civil service wanting Michael Gove to go to court to block the reporting of some grooming gang issues as far back as 2011, I'm not confident this is going to get us anywhere.
Well, we just go back to square one then. Like, I made this point repeatedly that inquiries are frequently used by people who don't want to address the issue at hand. They're a fantastic way for governments to kick issues into the long grass. They disappear for 3 years. No one can talk about it because the inquiry is happening. And then 3 or 4, 5 or 6 years later, when the inquiry is published, governments can just ignore the findings. Now, I think it's to Keir Starmer's credit that he has, commissioned this review by Louise Casey and listened to the results.
Isn't it because he was left with absolutely no option?
I don't think so.
But he was left with no option.
Well, no, he didn't have to commission the review, and he didn't have to.
Yeah, but that would have been mental, wouldn't it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. There was already a plan to get the council reports. Now, that clearly does seem to have been insufficient, rather. And so the national inquiry is the way forward. But the risks that you mention are inherent. And I think that, look, the point that I make about this is that it's absolutely right that the victim should be placed at the centre of it. And I don't think that political correctness should take precedence over those victims. But I do make the point again that there are a lot of people who do not generally express much interest or concern in the topic of child sexual abuse until the perpetrator is a Muslim. And I do think that's a problem.
Go on, Jeremy. You seem to be recoiling a bit.
First of all, when you can't give credit to a Prime Minister that had the opportunity to do this almost straight after his election, robustly
no one was
denied.
Calling for it.
He robustly.
No one was calling for it then.
Of course, people have been.
Reform wasn't. Your party wasn't even calling for it then.
People have been calling for this.
No, they weren't.
For years.
They weren't calling for it. They weren't calling for it.
He robustly defended and denied that decision. He rolled all those ministers out who just want to get a pay rise and get another briefcase. He rolled them all out to defend it on shows like this, and now he's doing it because public opinion is so much more stronger because it has got the airwaves because of his incompetent management of the issue and because he has just been wiped out in the local elections.
Jamie, yes or no
I'm
question?
Sorry.
Yes or no question?
Did
your party call for a national inquiry in your manifesto last year, yes or no?
The Reform Party
answer is no.
has been on this subject. Our members of Parliament have been all over this subject, and you know
the answer is no.
But where
to attack Starmer for not doing it.
Hold on. So should the public be gracious enough to say that it was just a coincidence that virtually all of these councils that were affected by these issues were Labour councils, and that somehow just had no part in the Prime Minister's decision to not hold a national inquiry.
But he has made a decision to hold a national inquiry.
No, but it's almost a year into his premiership. Are you saying... I'm just asking you, should the public be gracious enough to just say, no, it's a huge coincidence that someone like Jess Phillips, who is the Women and Girls Safeguarding Minister, who almost lost a seat by about 700 votes, in a districts that we know that Labour would have been very touchy to raise this issue with, it is just a coincidence. Like, I'm genuinely asking you in good faith, we should just say, oh, it's all a coincidence.
No, I'm not saying...
So there's no link?
No, I'm saying that this didn't become an issue until after the election.
No, but that's not the question I'm asking.
Elon Musk elevated it again.
Elon Musk is the person that I think is most responsible.
We can argue about, maybe every single other party should have had it in the manifesto. And I think in the cold light of day, probably every single political party should have had this in the manifesto. But it wasn't the case. Elon Musk raised it. It became a thing again. And it's never too late to do the right thing, is it?
Well, that's the thing, fine.
Apart from the Prime Minister didn't do the right thing, did he? And Jess Phillips turned down the inquiry into...
By the way, we're not saying this is your fault. You're obviously not...
No, Patrick, this is what I find slightly strange about these discussions, because you will find a way to attack the Prime Minister whatever happens. So if he doesn't call a national inquiry, that's bad. If he does, that's bad too. Politicians do make U-turns. Look, it's fun.
How would it have been bad if he called a national inquiry?
I have also attacked governments for making wrong decisions, and then when they've U-turned, pointed that out as a sign of weakness. I've done it as well in the past. It's a normal thing to do for your opponents. But the fundamental truth is that if you want a policy and the government agrees to that policy, that is better than government staying resolute with the wrong policy.
OK, when you look, Jamie, though, as I rattled off there, some really, really prominent members of our media class as well. It's like Owen Jones, like Emily Maitlis, there's a couple of others that I could have very easily raised, who've done their best to tell us for years that even the press regulator chastised Suella Braverman for saying what she said about the levels of British Pakistani men involved in grooming gangs. That shows you what you're up against, doesn't it, I think, in this side of things. Again, can we trust that this is going to be reported properly and truthfully in the round?
Well, this is why the Reform Party said that they will raise the money. If the government doesn't do a full national inquiry, we will raise the money to do it. Our leader of our party made that very clear. And it's brilliant news that there's going to be a national inquiry, but the point that you're making there is an important one. There are so many people with huge followings that have chosen to criticise people for pointing out facts. Those people have been vindicated, but I tell you what, they won't be relieved by it. They'll be actually more frustrated because there have been people that have been really made to feel like they're bad people for stating facts. And all they have done is actually try and stand up for vulnerable young girls who've been victim of atrocious crimes. That is shameful.
I mean, even today, what Diane Abbott tweeted, reading between the lines, when someone tweets that, it would imply to me that she just doesn't want this inquiry.
I'd love to know how many victims they've met with. That's what
I just don't get that.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest shame is the fact that if you are actually a ward of the state, so if you are the responsibility of the state, you are at greater risk of being abused by these gangs than if you had parents, for example, or relatives protecting you. That for me is just probably one of the most shameful things that has come out of this whole fiasco. The fact that the state not only fundamentally failed to protect these girls, they were at worse odds of failing these girls if they were directly in their care.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, that is a scandal, I
think presumably only got about another minute on this left before we have to go, but I think there's a really important conversation to be had very soon about whether or not this hasn't been done sooner because they're terrified of the amount of compensation they're going to have to pay. That compensation is going to cripple a load of local councils. It's going to cripple a load of public services because there's going to be care homes
should just be taking
involved,
out of pensions.
etc. Yeah, I honestly think
the pensions of the councillors that have failed, your pension
I do wonder if that's it, because there is a case study of a grooming gang survivor, a Pakistani rape gang survivor, who launched a civil case against one of her rapists, and she took him to the cleaners for somewhere in the region of about £400,000. And if that sets the baseline for the rough amount of compensation, this is going to clean people out.
Well, look, I don't think that the government is going to allow councils to go to the wall over this, that the government will step in if necessary. I appreciate the theory, but I wouldn't, have much...
They could take it out of the asylum budget.
We're going to have to move on. Right.